Hello, folks. You'll have to excuse my voice. Got a little bit of the crud here. I hadn't really planned on making a video today, uh, but I was watching a YouTube video earlier that I found pretty interesting, and I thought I'd jump on here and give a few thoughts about that. I was actually watching the Sean McDowell show, uh, which you can find on YouTube. And this particular episode, I think, just came out a couple days ago. And his guest was a Dr. Arnold, uh, who himself has written a lot of books on, well, a few books at least, on spiritual warfare. And he actually is teaching a class on spiritual warfare at one of the Christian universities. And they were kind of reviewing and talking about Dr. Michael Heiser's book, Unseen Realm, which is the book that really opened my eyes to a lot of stuff uh, in the spiritual world, spiritual warfare. Um, and I thought it was pretty interesting. I think it was Dr. Clint Arnold, I believe was his name. Um, he basically agreed with Heiser on um, quite a few of, well, really most. I'd say he agreed with Heiser with 90% of what Dr. Heiser taught and wrote about. And but he did have a few points of contention that I thought, for the most part, were pretty fair. And he made a point that really, in all of Dr. Heiser's works, I've never heard him mention or talk about. Um, that being our part as Christians, as humans, in spiritual warfare. What exactly is our role? Um, if you've been watching this channel long enough and been able to put up with my voice, you, I think I've kind of laid out a lot about the divine council worldview and, uh, you know, the spiritual realm, the heavenly realm, uh, what all kinds of beings inhabit that realm. It's, more than what we just think of as the common demons or angels or whatever. There's a lot more specifics to it. And I know I mentioned uh, the higher powers, um, which before Jesus was resurrected had dominion and power over the nations. And these carry quite a few names, the most common one being principalities, or princes for short. If you've read my book, Pastor, you'll kind of have a better idea of what I'm talking about there. There's also powers, dominions. Now, these beings, like I said, they didn't start out bad. They didn't start out bad. They were part of God's divine council. They were advisors. Um, And after the whole Tower of Babel incident, when God scattered the people, confused their language, and created the nations, he assigned um, one of his divine council members to govern and rule over all the nations except for Israel, and Israel he kept for himself. Now, think of these guys like, God being the CEO, of course, of the company, and these other guys are kind of like, regional managers. Each one in control of a certain geographical area. And these beings they're called in the Bible the B'nai Elohim, which means sons of God. These are kind of stray hair. These are kind of more. They're higher on the tier than what we would think of as a normal angel, a messenger angel, or a guardian angel. These are more very powerful beings. Excuse me. Now they're nowhere close to God. God created them. They don't have powers to create life, or they don't have the omniscience. They don't have the omnipresence that God has, but they're still high-ranking, powerful beings. Now, in the Bible, as far as spiritual warfare goes, you don't see, in the Old Testament, you don't see any casting out of demons. But pretty much as soon as, Jesus is baptized by John the Baptist and goes through his 40 days of temptation in the wilderness with Satan, right after that, he hits the ground and running. And one of the first things he does is drive out a demon or an unclean spirit. Now, if you think about it, Jesus, none of the apostles, nobody in the Bible really gives us humans authority to try to take on these larger entities. Now, we are given authority through our relationship with Jesus to cast out demons and unclean spirits. But this is kind of like ground level infantry work here. Nowhere in the Bible does it say that we should try to take on these larger, more powerful entities, these principalities. In my book, I took a little creative license because it's fiction. But still, even in my book, it explains, Levi explains why this is not just your regular run-of-the-mill, and it even sounds funny talking like, this is just your regular run-of-the-mill demon, nothing to worry about. But, when he at first sends his 12 disciples out with the power to cast out demons and heal the sick, um, they're able to do that. And later he sends out the, I think it's 72, or there may be a little bit of a argument whether it was 70 or 72. And they come back and they're like, wow, even the demons in these foreign lands, obey us when we cast them out in your name. you know. Um, so when we're talking about spiritual warfare, that we as humans, as Christians, should be worried about, we should be worried about the more personal, individual stuff. Um, Jesus himself never tries to cast out a principality or a power or a throne or anything like that. Now, he does take most of their power away when he ascends after he's crucified. But you never see in the Bible, Jesus going on the top of the mountain and casting out Zeus, from Greece or whatever. In my opinion, that level of spiritual warfare, that's left up to the war that's actually going on now in the spiritual realm, in the heavenly realm. Our concern should be, with people here on earth, with attacks, with demonic attacks on ourselves and on others here on earth. There are some churches or some sections of churches that they will actually get a bunch of their members together, and really go out and pray in force against these principalities and stuff. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that's wrong. Myself, every night when I pray before bed, and I'm talking to Jesus, and I'll ask him to do what he can with these, evil principalities and powers, and he can do anything, but it's not their appointed time yet. It's not time for them to be destroyed yet. That happens when Jesus returns. And it's really a lot more complicated than what we were taught in Sunday school. Not that I actually ever went to Sunday school. Maybe once or twice, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, it should be kept at a personal level. We as humans, nowhere in the Bible does it suggest that we have power over these higher beings. Even though Jesus does, and we can cast out a demon or an unclean spirit from a person that's being afflicted through the authority of Jesus. Like I say, we don't actually do it. We're the vessel, we're the conduit through which Jesus evicts the unclean spirit. But, worrying about and messing with these higher powers is something I probably wouldn't advise, because, God and the heavenly host, that's their job. That's what they're taking care of. And in any normal circumstance, some kind of principality over a large geographical region is not going to take notice of you or your wife or your best friend or whoever. I mean, it would have to be some kind of special circumstance for them to even take notice, because they're looking at the whole picture. They're looking. Did you ever play Risk as a kid, or as a teenager, where you're trying to take over the world? They're kind of looking at it that way. They're not focusing on each little individual soldier down here. But if you make enough noise, you could get them to pay attention to you. And in fact, Dr. Arnold he said in the video that he had seen people who tried this and had repercussions from it, both spiritual and physical repercussions from this. And these were devout Christians. So I thought maybe I'd just clarify that a little bit. Truth be told, I was a little bored tonight. Decided to come out and make a video. I want to thank everybody that's subscribed so far. I encourage, if you get anything at all out of any of my videos, hit the subscribe button. I'd like to be able to reach more people, because this is really my witnessing. I'm kind of introverted in real, if you know me in real life. And it's kind of hard for me to just go up to somebody, especially a complete stranger, and just start testifying for the Lord. I'm kind of shy. That's not my personality. But from what I've felt when I pray about it, God's like, well, that's okay, because you can write about it. You can write these books. People will read them. And you can make your little videos. And if I reach even one person, just one person, from out of these videos, that makes them want to say, I'm going to look into this. I'm going to open my Bible up, and I'm going to look into this a little more. Because I don't know if this fella's full of hogwash, or, if he's got early onset dementia or something, I'm going to look it up and try to disprove what he's saying. It will do that, as long as it gets you into opening your Bible up. And so that's my mission. Like I said, I don't want to be some big influencer. I don't know if I can even handle that. But at the same time, I'd like to reach as many people as I could. So the way YouTube works, apparently, is, the more subscribers, the more likes you get, the more people that comment on your videos, the logarithms will boost your video, your visibility a little bit. And so you'll get, it'll be presented to more people when they get on YouTube and just start doom scrolling down through there. And by far the biggest video that I made so far, with the most watched, which I think's over 130 views now. I think it's only got 7 or 8 likes, but was the one about, can a Christian watch a scary movie? I got some more thoughts about that too, that I probably need to clarify a few things, but I'll save that till later. Just be aware that when you're watching, not necessarily even a scary movie, But anything, any of these TV shows and stuff they have on TV nowadays that have even the slightest attachment to the occult, I know there's several witch shows that are popular on TV right now. There's at least one new vampire show that's out, that's pretty popular, I think. Just kind of guard yourself, use discernment, because these writers, like I said in one of my previous videos, they don't just pull these names out of thin air. The original big scary movie, The Exorcist, Pazuzu, the demon, which was supposedly possessing a little girl, Pazuzu was actually an ancient Mesopotamian god, the god of the wind. So these writers, they're not just picking random names out. They're not getting the Scrabble board out and just tossing it around and seeing what comes up. And this may be a sincere effort on their part to make it more realistic, or it could have a more nefarious side to it, that they're putting this stuff out and you're absorbing it in, and every bit of it's true. It's based on actual beings. And like I said, if you're ever watching one where they start some kind of incantation or something, just turn it off. You don't need that in your life. But anyway, we'll get into that and another one. I don't really want to make a real long one. Seems like the longer they go, the less views they get. And seems like the average view that I look at on there is maybe people make it about 7 or 8 minutes into the video and maybe lose interest or whatever, or something happens and they have to click off and they don't come back and watch the rest. And I'm not judging anybody. I don't know if I would find myself all that interesting if I was watching me. But yeah, just keep that in mind about the trying to fight or resist the higher powered entities, spirits. And if you're really interested in spiritual warfare, just kind of keep it down to a ground level infantry level here, and because there's lots to do. There's lots to do. With the world the way it is right now, if you were in deliverance ministry, or if you were an exorcist or whatever, you wouldn't have time to sleep if you were to go out and try to rid everyone from not just total possession, but obsession, influence. You'd have your hands full. And so there's plenty to do here, and we'll trust in God to take care of the bigger players upstairs. Well, y'all have a good night. God bless each and every one of you. I'll see you when I see you, hopefully within the next couple of days or so. Y'all have a good night.